And thanks for joining us. My name is John Nelson. I'm the Vice President of Operations at BBI International. Joined with me today is Anna Simet. She is the editor of Biomass Magazine, Pellet Mill Magazine, and Biodiesel Magazine. So thanks for joining us, Anna. We also have today, our special guest is Will Charlton. He's the president of Digester Doc, and he'll be speaking at the International Biomass Conference and Expo taking place in March in Jacksonville. And his track that he'll be speaking, his panel is titled Best Practices in Digester Commissioning and Ongoing Operation. Will, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Right.
Hi, Will. Good to chat with you again. Really looking forward to the conference and your panel. And, I really love to hear about people's backstories. So I thought today we could start our 3 questions with maybe you could tell us a little bit about, how did you get into AD? What interests you about it? And then maybe sort of a high-level account of how you got to where you are and about Digester Doc, your company.
Sure. So I actually, my background is in organic waste management technologies, biochemistry, microbiology. I actually started working with composting and came across anaerobic digestion in about, was it 99, I believe? And about that time, I started getting involved a little bit more, and I kind of fell in love with the industry and the marketplace. And because of my background in chemistry and microbiology, it really meshed well with anaerobic digestion. And gradually over the years, I became more and more involved on, making sure the biology was healthy and doing what it was supposed to be doing and optimizing the systems. And, it's been 22 years that I've been doing this. The last 10 almost as Digester Doc. At one point, I was doing more development and realized after a while that I was more suited to be able to provide support for developers and projects out there. And so we founded Digester Doc about 10 years ago and built it from grassroots, basically just through reputation and through proven results.
So did you do a lot of science experiments as a kid and make a lot of messes in your kitchen?
I was raised in northern Alberta in Canada. Ooh. So, the science experiments were kind of somewhat limited.
Right. Unless you throw water outside and see how fast it freezes, right?
Right, or challenge your cousin to pee on an electric wire and see what happens, So, it was more the practical experiments, but,
right.
Where did the name Digester Doc come from?
So
we're getting to that, John.
Oh, sorry. Was that on one of your questions you had? If it was, I apologize.
No. Go ahead. Yeah, maybe you want to explain that a little bit. Well.
Yeah, so the name Digester Doc came, like I said, originally I was working a lot on the back end of the digesters, developing a soil amendment product. My company at that time was Soil Guys, but I found that there really wasn't a good marketplace for when I was reliant on other parts and other companies to be able to produce a product. And so what I wanted to do was to develop a company where I could improve their operations and make them healthier and be able to become a part of that operations as far as their doctor, if you would, whenever they needed help. And so since that was kind of the goal and the objective of the program was to become the doctor of the digesters, hence the name Digester Doc.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Right. And so at the conference, you're going to talk about what I was reading your abstract and some about how your findings regarding the length of time it takes to bring a digester to full production levels is actually quite a bit different than what's kind of considered the industry standard. So can you tell us a little bit more about that and what you're going to talk about during your presentation?
Yeah, so one of the common or undervalued, I guess would be the better way to say that, aspects of a digester is making sure that you have your biochemistry in balance. So this is things like cobalt, nickel, cadmium, selenium, molybdenum, etc., heavy metals that are actually needed for all living organisms. You take a shot of B12 when you're low on energy, and what is B12? It's cobalt. It's really a single atom of cobalt that makes B12 what it is. And all living organisms need that. So same thing with biology. We make sure that the biology has the needed micronutrients, as well as making sure that all of the other parameters, from total solids to organic loading rates, everything's balanced, and that the system is allowing it so that the biology can adapt and move and evolve as quickly as possible in the system to make sure that you have a fully healthy environment. And without any stresses on the system, it allows you to expedite the startup process by easily twice, if not 3 times faster.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay.
You can kind of think of it like an athlete. If your athlete is drained down, malnutrition, he's not going to be performing at his top.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Good analogy. Very cool. I think a lot of the time, in my experience anyway, writing for Biomass Magazine, is that there really is a need for a company like yours because, sometimes I think there's reluctance, isn't there, in like farmers or whoever. It seems like, kind of intimidating because, trying to figure out their digesters and something goes wrong, they don't know who to turn to. So do you find yourself, a lot of your clients kind of in those types of situations?
Well, when I started into this industry 22 years ago, I actually put myself to work on a dairy farm for 6 months. Basically with slave labor for 6 months to, learn how the dairies operated. I kind of foresaw that was going to be one of the largest markets. Granted, I was probably about 15 years too fast, but, with that, it allowed me to be able to get special insight to how dairies operated and how to be able to help them and also to speak their language. And so we get a lot of developers today and dairies as well that come to us to ask questions. Well, what do we have here? And so we're able to communicate with both the developer and the dairies in their terms and help them understand what they have.
Right.
That's interesting.
And so I think that's a really good segue into kind of our fun question. We've chatted in the past about, some problems you've encountered, problems you've helped solve at digesters. What's the oddest thing that you've seen and how is it fixed? I seem to remember you talking one time about a digester that was spewing like a geyser.
So I've seen some pretty weird things out there. So I've been to a digester that quite literally, it was a 30-foot deep digester that was built in ground, and 28 feet of it was crust. Ooh. So it actually was only operating with 2 feet of actual flowing liquids. Ooh. So the retention time was supposed to be 30 days, and it turned out to be basically 2 days. We've seen that as one example of one side of the extreme. The geyser, a 12-foot geyser coming out the top of a digester. I've seen that off the relief valve because it was foaming so bad. And in that particular case, it was actually, we were able to throw on our Sherlock Holmes hat and figure out, based on the chemistry, we understood that it had to be one of 2 types of industries. And with that, we then went in, kind of did a little bit of homework on that street and says, okay, well, there's none of this other industry, so it's got to be the mechanic, one of those 2 mechanics. And knowing when that stormwater vein opened up, they put their people on the streets and watched, and sure enough, that morning they saw him the culprit wheeling out 2 55-gallon drums of oil, and he was dumping it down the sewer. And so we were able to correctly help not just resolve the problem and treat and put a Band-Aid on until the problem went away, but able to actually help them identify their culprit and solve that whole problem. And so it was quite a fun one to be able to be involved.
Right. Sounds like a lot to handle.
Yeah. Well, and then I've seen ones where, there's got so much foam and stuff built up that it coats all the electrical equipment and everything. and creates additional costs. And so a lot of what we have done as Digester Doc is trying to help projects develop preventative maintenance to prevent those horror stories from happening. I mean, that first one, they were foaming for 6 months before they hired us to solve the problem.
Wow.
So that guy was doing that for 6 months.
Just thinking, maybe this will just go away.
Right.
Oh, man.
Awesome. Okay. Well, Will, is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap this up?
Well, a big thing about biological health is just making sure that your digester is running sustainable and that you do well checkups on your digester, just like you do a child or, you yourself, making sure that you're in the peak operational condition. If you think about it, you're investing millions of dollars, the same as you would a professional athlete, probably should take care of it about the same.
Right. That makes perfect sense.
Great advice.
So, Anna, I got a question for you. When are you going to become the editor of the Biogas Magazine?
Ooh.
I know, right? You never know.
Okay.
We have lots of things in the works.
Challenge accepted.
I take that as you volunteering to be one of my regular contributors then.
Ooh.
We'd love to, actually.
Awesome. Well, I certainly look forward to Jacksonville. Can't wait to get together in person again. And thanks so much, Will, for chatting with us today. It's been super enjoyable.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye, all.